soundtrack. Here we are. Spawning on in the bottom left-hand corner, the blue Protoss, it is ZEST. And his opponent in the top right, the red Zerg, it is RAGNAROK. It's best of 7. There's a probe going across the map immediately. I wonder if this is going to be a forge, or this could just be to block the hatch. It's actually, no, it's probably going to be to block the hatch. ZEST is not a cannon rusher as far as I know. He's just definitely going to just stick to what he knows. Yep, gateway. So, pro blocks, and RAGNAROK identifies this right away, so he's just going to take the third base instead. Not, like, ideally Zerg does not really want to do this, because now you kind of have this big gap between your main base and your third, and the Protoss can make some early adepts that can kind of teleport between those bases and harass the Zerg player. So Zerg player has to make a lot of defensive units early on when they'd rather be making workers. But standard stuff so far, nothing out of the ordinary. This is actually, I find that this is a lot more common in the Korean scene. At least in the Southeast Asian scene, which I used to cast quite a lot of. This sort of thing was rare. There'd be 1 or 2 players that would do it, but it wasn't very common. Cool, so Nexus Cybernetics Core. Now, I expect to see Stargate out of ZEST. That's most likely what he's been practicing of late. But he can certainly pull off like an Adept Rush. I wouldn't put it past him to have practiced some like DT rushes as well. Yeah, so we should see probably about 6 Zerglings out of RAGNAROK. He might... No, he's already built them, but you can delay them a little bit because the Cybernetics Core is only just now finished. In fact, that's not even been chrono boosted just yet. Chrono boosting probes instead. But there's the Stargate, surprise, surprise. I think RAGNAROK probably expects a Stargate. He'll scout it with the Overlord once he sees that it's an Adept first. So when this Adept finishes, the Overlord's most likely just going to go into the main base. So let's have a look. It's a good timing, I think, for Zergs to keep in mind. So now he's seen an Adept, there is a window of time where he could go into the main base and scout. I think he just wants to keep the Overlord alive and put it on the cliff. This probe, just keeping an eye on RAGNAROK. RAGNAROK is definitely the kind of player who could throw out an early cheese against ZEST. Definitely very good with Roach all-ins, Lingbane all-ins. So ZEST playing very cautiously. Now of course the Void Ray out of ZEST will clean up this Overlord. And it's also just a great defensive unit. You can also use it to harass some mineral lines. And they scale pretty well now with the movement speed buffs they've been, they have now, and the they are 2 movement speeds actually, because they got a passive movement speed buff and an upgrade which increases the movement speed even more. So they can definitely zoom around the map pretty well, unless there's been a patch that has taken that out. As I said, I'm not a Protoss player myself, so my familiarity with the upgrades is a bit iffy sometimes. Alright, so it's Oracle Void Ray into third base. Oops. So the Oracle and Void Ray should keep the third base alive, unless like a big wave of Zerglings is built out of the Zerg player. But RAGNAROK looks like he's just happy to drone. He wants to get his economy as large as it possibly can before he commits to making any defensive or aggressive units. He's just going to rely on queens for now. He will definitely need to get some creep between these bases, as most likely ZEST will be kind of rotating. Okay, just 1 Overlord picked off so far. Second Stargate going down. No, I don't believe that was scouted at all, no. But third base is scouted here. I think against double starport, you can go like Hydra Queen. If it's like mass Void Ray, Mutas are pretty good, but they already have the infrastructure to counter the the Mutalisks with Phoenix, which is the Protoss anti-air unit. Forge, Twilight on the way, so it looks like ZEST will want to be making some, probably just charge lots. Underdog says, I think ZEST will be semi-final 4 at the Katowice. Yeah, I mean, he's looking really good at the moment. He underperformed a little bit in the recent GSL Super Tournament against, I believe it was Zaun. So he might need to brush up on his PvP, but his Protoss versus Zerg is looking pretty good. I never really considered ZEST much of a late game player. I've always kind of considered him like a timing orientated like mid game player, but watching a series versus Rogue, it just removes any doubt that ZEST knows, like, that he's definitely comfortable now in the late game. Now, there's definitely enough queens to push off the Void Rays. Again, the Void Rays, they still scale very well. I think Zaun bit ZEST in the GSL Super Tournament, if I'm not mistaken, to go from, it was in the semi-finals, because then he went on to the finals to face Trap. Zaun's looking pretty good as well. I quite like watching his style. It's just very technical. You could tell that he's the kind of player that sits down and thinks about the game quite a lot. Whereas someone like ZEST is definitely someone who like, well, I think it's like Artosis compared him to Rain, which makes a lot of sense. Alright, 4 Void Rays with Overcharge. Yeah, they can definitely kill a base really quickly. Let's see if the transfuses. There will be some, but not enough to heal against the damage output from the Void Rays. Ragnarok's just keeping an eye, making sure that there's no like greedy 4th base on the way. But he's going to go with Hydras. There's already Storm, Charge, +1 attack. So there's already some good tools against this for ZEST. And again, the Void Rays, they're going to be really strong. I wonder if Ragnarok wants to commit to a 5th base. He's making a lot of units, so he probably wants to try punish this out of ZEST. Hydraling Bane. It is pretty strong. Storm is done though, and Storm has been good against the entire unit composition. Yeah, just sling Hydra on the way. Ooh, a drop you say? If this goes along the edge, like if this kind of goes all the way down through here, then the Void Rays may not be in position for that. Now, Void Ray Storm Charge Lot will clean up the drop very quickly. But Ragnarok, he might be trying to pull ZEST out of position here. He has just been making pure units. He's decided 72 workers, 4 base is where he's just going to sit for now. But I don't know, like ZEST's defense is looking really good right now. Little photon overcharge cannon combo is kind of cool. Funny little zealot placement. They've cleaned up. But we've got the drop now on the main base. They do pick off. Oh, there's actually queens in this. Oh, very cool. Okay, so he's going to transfuse the Hydras. They don't have a lot of HP, but they're pretty good against the Void Rays. But as I said, like Charge Lot Storm should clean this up fairly quickly. But the Rocks was broken, so these Banelings, they're probably going to get quite a lot of probes. Let's see. 17 probes. That's pretty good damage here by Ragnarok. He's going to come in. Let's see if he can get any more. 24. Oh my god. Okay, ZEST is in a lot of trouble. He does have a Charge Lot counterattack on the other side of the map. And believe it or not, a small group of Charge Lots does really, really well against Reinforcement Ling Hydra. Yeah, ZEST has identified he's not going to be able to play this out to a macro game. So he's trying to put on counter pressure, but looks like Ragnarok is able to rally enough troops. And you know what? I think Ragnarok's got game number 1. When this army goes down, that's it. GG. Very cool. All right. I mean, look, I definitely, I'm still favoring ZEST to take the series, but Awesome. That was a really well played there by Ragnarok. Yo, what's up, Passer, man? How you doing? So it's Zest map pick, so we'll see what he decides to choose. I suspect he's probably going to pick, well, maybe not a large map, but maybe like a medium big map. Yeah, like it has been quite some time, yeah. Nah, I just been lettering, haven't really been casting as of late. Oops. Death, okay, cool. Death will be Zest's map pick. So just remember, guys. So it is best of 7, but all the maps will be played. So we will get to see these players duke it out the whole way. All right, both players are ready. So we'll go ahead and start the countdown. Yeah, Death Aura. That sounds about right. It's a medium to large map. It's not Gigantha large, but it is definitely bigger. I think Gigantha is actually bad against Skytoss because it's so slow. All right. I should have gone windowed full screen. Oh, we'll do it after this game. Here we are. Spawning in the bottom right, the blue Protoss, it is Zest. And his opponent in the top left, the red Zerg, it is Ragnarok. Alright. I think Ragnarok can wear him down with aggression, since Zest has been trying to use the Void Ray, which is a bit slower. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Zest's defense was looking really good. He wasn't really that drop definitely did kind of pull him out of position. He didn't quite split his units correctly against that, and that's a one-trick pony too, by the way. Good bait there by Ragnarok, identifying that the probe had moved away. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think we're gonna see that out of Ragnarok again. It's a great ladder strategy, like you could, if you're facing different opponents, then drops are usually quite effective. But against the same player, especially at the caliber of these two, that's definitely a one and done. Not to say that he can't still use drops to some effect during the series. I mean, you can still do things like Baneling drops, maybe smaller drops. What was the first map? Oxide. Oxide was the first map. Yeah. So I get to pick the first map. I chose Oxide because I thought that it being a smaller map, it would give Ragnarok more of a fighting chance. I suspected that Ragnarok is the underdog in this series, I would probably say. So I wanted to give him more of a fighting chance. So it's no surprise to me that Zest has picked a bigger map here. In fact, it's funny because my first instinct usually as a Zerg is, like, the bigger the map, the better it is. It gives you so much more time before your opponent gets across the map to attack you. And because the Zerg player is usually just investing everything into workers until they absolutely have to defend or they decide to attack, it usually, you know, that time gives Zerg the ability to just get so many more units out than they otherwise would. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Ragnarok has been studying how Zest plays, and maybe he's got the answer. Now, definitely being able to drop this hatchery at the natural location after the probe goes out to try block it as early as it does, which, by the way, it does hurt Zest's economy to do this. I mean, you're feeling pretty comfortable as Ragnarok. He only built 2 Zerglings rather than 6. He can get creep between his bases a lot faster, so all of this kind of adds up. We will be Void Ray once again. I expect we're probably going to see that every game of the series. And of course, yeah, this is actually interesting because Ragnarok, knowing that it's probably going to be Stargate, he can just leave the Overlord here, and it's going to die anyway, so he doesn't even, like, he even puts it in a hold position. He's like, yep, that's not going anywhere. I like that Zest is also using the shades here to scout for a potential, like, Zergling timing. Oh, that's cool. Huh. I don't think I've seen that before. Just using the natural indent of the mineral patch. It's not as good, I think, as, like, you know, we have, like, 2 pylons here and you put the units in between. But it's, you know, it's decent. Let's see, Void Ray Oracle once again, second Stargate, yeah, so Zest is probably going to be playing this style for most of the series until he decides that Ragnarok is cutting too many corners. Is that one drone kill? I believe that was. I don't know if I made this map with the Game Heart mod. So, bit of a mistake on my part. No, I did. Never mind. Yeah, I believe that was just one drone kill. Yeah, Zerg definitely does want to break down the rocks. It's a bigger map, and the rocks slow down the pathways even more. And Zerg, in the early to mid game, maybe even the late game as well, they want as much kind of open areas and room to breathe as they can get. Roach Warren. Okay. Alright. He's gonna walk the queens. Now, Zest did see the queens by the rocks, and breaking them this early is definitely an indicator. Yeah. Look at that. 3 shield batteries, 2 cannons. Yeah. Zest knows an all-in's on the way. It's funny how, like, just how subtle a tell it can be just to see, like, your opponent breaking the rocks with Zerglings and Queens. That Zest knows exactly what's up, yeah. And I think Zest as well probably went into this knowing that Ragnarok is not going to want to play this one out. I almost wonder if this is one of those scenarios where, as Ragnarok, if your opponent scouted you, right? I wonder if it's a scenario where you actually decide to, like, drop a 4th base and drone instead, but then again, if you're going to go to all this effort to drop a Roach Warren, make Roaches, make Queens like this, then, you know, you got to commit. It's better to go full all-in than half all-in. Because half all-in just puts you behind anyway. Alright, let's have a look. Files will be thrown down on the shield battery. Some on the cannon. By splitting them up, it does make it harder for Zest to dodge this. I mean, the Void Rays are reigning supreme here. If Ragnarok can get all the shield batteries, perhaps the Queens can actually clear them out. Let's see, there's nothing on the ground for Zest anymore. He's trying to warp in some adepts, and the shield batteries are running out of energy. Now, if the Void Rays can just stay back, and if they can slowly pick off these Queens, then Zest has a definite hold here. One Void Ray does go down, but there's a lot of, like, ground units that have been traded out here for Ragnarok. Okay, the shield batteries with no energy, they're not able to keep some of these Void Rays alive, but this push is over. Ragnarok has been droning behind this, but look at the worker counts, it's 57 to 55. And the majority of what Zest lost there was static defense. 3 cannons, 2 shield batteries, 4 Void Rays, and he's just been making more and more Void Rays. He's got charge on the way. There's no 4th base for Ragnarok, so Ragnarok is even in terms of, well, he's actually behind in terms of economy. Okay, Night Swim. I think that makes a lot of sense out of Ragnarok here. That's probably the only way that he can win the game from this position. And I don't know how Zest knows that was committed, but perhaps he doesn't know how committed just yet. Now, I like the Spore Crawlers here. I think Ragnarok was anticipating losing all of his Queens. No, sorry, he did lose all his Queens, should I say. He was anticipating not having enough anti-air. Alright, good focus fire here by Zest. Just seeing whatever damage he can get done. But the Nidus Worm is finished. And has been dropped here. Now these players, they're very quick at looking at the minimap. Yep, there goes the recall. He should see this. It looks like Zest is ready for this first Night of Swim. Oh, the Hydra's trying to come out, and oh no. Only a few of them get out, and they will be sacrificed. The other Night of Swim does get spotted here. And it's GG. Like you might be looking at the supplies and might see that both players have a very similar amount of units. But the biggest problem there for Ragnarok is he's down on workers, and workers are Zerg is overall less efficient with their attacking units, so they need a bigger economy to make more units to compensate for how inefficient their units are. So if you're down in economy, you just simply cannot trade, or you can't trade effectively enough to stabilize. So it's 1-1. It's Ragnarok's map pick here. Oh yes, I should go to windowed full screen. Fix some of the issue I was having before. Cool. Rag hasn't given us his map pick just yet, so we'll go ahead and ask him. Yeah, he's going to pick the smaller map, light shade. That makes a lot of sense. I don't think he wants to be picking the big maps. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what I was saying before the series started about how I think Protoss is strong in the early and the late game. So I expect Ragnarok to go for a lot of mid-game pushes. Cool, Ragnarok is ready. Let's see if Zest is ready. Yep, he's ready. Coolio. So, starting game number 3. Yeah, I think Zest's defense is looking so good right now. It's definitely a tall order for Ragnarok to try to knock him out in the early to mid game. And it's even more difficult knowing that your opponent probably sees that as being your strategy anyway. And if your opponent is expecting that, then obviously they can make all of these preparations ahead of time without the full game knowledge. Here we are. I don't know why my computer's been so slow to do that. Here we are. Spawning in the bottom right hand corner, the blue Protoss, it is Zest. And his opponent in the top left, the red Zerg, it is Ragnarok. Now, at least in kind of like the first 3 minutes of the game, both players are kind of forced into doing the same thing. Well, the Zerg at least is definitely forced into doing the same thing. Because of this early probe scout, it's like if Zerg was to go for like a fast pull, spawning pull, and try to go for an aggressive attack, then it gets scouted immediately, and Zest can make all the proper preparations. Yeah, so you notice how the probe is checking for the base here. If there's no base here, then he knows to go into the main to check for some kind of all-in. And as a Protoss player, I mean, with a scout as early as this, then you know just not to build a nexus, get some gateways down, some nexus core down, cannons, shore batteries, and pull probes. And all you have to do is not die, and the Zerg player will just run out of steam. One thing to note about the Zerg early game as well, the Zergling speed, it's not so important to get it as early as possible. So notice how he's just rallying the drones into the gas as they're made, rather than pulling drones into the gas immediately. It's because minerals is more important than gas in the early game here for Zerg. So he wants to just sit on 16 workers out of 16 Oz minerals and just make the drones into the gas geysers slowly. Now, because the bases are separated, the Zerg player does have to get extra pairs of Zerglings because the Adept can shade in between the bases. So far, Zest has not been aggressive with the Adept at all. He's rallying it across the map this time, but for the most part, he's been making 2 Adepts and just using them to establish his third base rather than apply any pressure. And ZEST once again, opening with that Stargate. So, I'm curious if he's going to be aggressive with these steps. You can. So once the Void Ray kills the Overlord, the Zerg player is blind, and the Protoss player can play standard and drop a third base like ZEST has been doing. Or he can drop like a Twilight Council, get some gateway unit upgrades, and then drop a whole bunch of gateways and make a big ground army and go and attack. Yeah, he's actually going to be aggressive with the Adept this time. Now, Zerglings were made, so shouldn't get too much done here. RAGNAROK trying to pull back the weakened Zergling, but it does actually get picked off there. Good focus fire there by ZEST, but does lose some HP on the Adept. ZEST, of course, just making sure that RAGNAROK isn't making a whole bunch of Zerglings or Roaches and going on the offensive here. Actually, I do want to point out it's interesting that RAGNAROK took this base rather than this base down here. This base is safer to take as a Zerg player, but this base allows the Zerg player to push their creep out more aggressively. So because it's more exposed, it allows you to use this base to establish creep in the middle of the map much faster than if you were to take the more conservative base. Obviously the Protoss player doesn't care about it at all, so conservative base it is. This base here is actually quite difficult for Protoss to take because you have this big wide area down here, and this big wide area down here, and this area here to defend. By taking this base, you have this small gap, and this small gap to defend. So much better for the Protoss player to take that base. Oh, good focus fire by the Adept. Does get 2 drones, and there was one taken out by the Void Ray as well. So yeah, ZEST playing a lot more aggressively this game. I think he's starting to get a read on what RAGNAROK is doing. Like, the first kind of 2 games was just to kind of figure out the way that RAGNAROK wanted to play this series. ZEST, of course, is probably going to play the same way every single game, but as you can see, in Game 3, he's starting to make these little adjustments. He's starting to notice that RAGNAROK's being extremely passive, and ZEST is starting to kind of just poke him a little bit more, see if he can find this sort of damage. Which, hey, 3 drones is not bad if you keep all the units alive. Now, as a Zerg player, you can actually make a big round of Zerglings and try to snipe the space. Mind you, ZEST is making that sort of thing very difficult because he's just constantly keeping an eye on the Zerg. So using things like Revelation here, just to have vision on like how many drones there are. He knows that there's a lot of drones here, he knows there's a lot of drones here. So if there's a lot of drones from the Zerg player, it means that there's not a lot of attacking units from the Zerg player. Because all the building drones and building attacking units comes from the same source of production. So you can only do one or the other. If you try to do half of both, then you have a small army and a small economy. So you can sometimes do that sort of thing if you're a really good player. But usually it's better to be full greed or full aggression. Alright, some roaches on the way here. I think maybe we might see another Queen Roach attack. This map's smaller, and the creep is a lot further along, so the Queens would actually be able to get across the map much faster. This Queen is... yeah, that Queen's dead. That's kind of sad, actually. It's got quite a lot of energy. So that was a good Queen that got lost there for RAGNAROK. So, a bit of a mistake on his part, but ZEST capitalizing on that. Nidus Worm. Okay, cool. Now there is actually a blind spot in ZEST's space here. These piles are not going to see that. And there is an Overlord here, Overseer should I say, going to provide the vision for that tunnel to be dropped. Oh, sorry, weird bug with the mouse there. Alright, Void Ray is definitely going to come in the back here. They can snipe this base if they want to. If they all turn on their overcharge, that base will go down. These Queens are well out of position. ZEST? I think he smells something's not right. Ah! RAGNAROK misplaced the Nidus Worm, actually. But it may not matter. There's a big army coming into the natural. Void Rays, I believe they've been recalled? Okay, they're recalled at the 3rd base. But a lot of probes will go down in the meantime. RAGNAROK not quite splitting his units right here. doesn't want the queens to be fighting immortals. He wants the queens to be fighting the void rays. But Zest is in trouble here. His army's kind of split in two. Oh! Big feedbacks on the queens, taking out all of their energy. Of course, that does... the energy is used for healing. The queens can heal friendly units, so by denying that energy, a lot of the effective health points for the Zerg player have been removed. Nidus trying to be used for reinforcements here, but they are getting shut down here by Zest. Zest's going to sandwich this army, and this is a really good engagement here for Zest. When the queens die, there's no more anti-air, so these roaches, they can't shoot up. They will die eventually. Another Nidus does finish. Now, these roaches can retreat into the Nidus. Oh, actually, more queens, so. More queens for more anti-air. There's only 3, and let's see, what, 5 void rays, 2 low health. So if Ragnarok focus fires the low health ones, which he's not, a bit of a blunder here by Ragnarok, I think. This is all in, by the way. So he does need to do quite a lot of damage. More reinforcements coming, but they are just simply dying to this composition. GG will be called. Hold on. I'm just going to take a quick geeze here, just before we do jump into our next game, because I don't know if this was... I think Ragnarok maybe GG too early. I mean, he's down on tech. He like, there's Void Ray, Archon, Immortal, Storm. So the unit composition is very technical here for Zest, but the economy for... it's not great, I guess. Okay, no. I just wanted to check. I guess the economy, if it was a little bit better, then I think you can be afford to be behind on tech. So Rag's map pick. Yeah, I mean he did do quite a lot of probe damage when the push started, but I guess with three Nexi, Zest can replace those very quickly, and he's got the infrastructure to make a much more technical army and just go across the map and kill Ragnarok. So yeah, I guess that was a GG. It just felt a bit weird. You know, it felt like he could have played it out, but no, I think he's definitely right that was definitely a position where he will lose against Zest. And part of it is just respecting your opponent. Part of it is just knowing that your opponent is good enough to close out the game. I think a good example would be something like in chess. If you lose your queen while not doing any damage to your opponent, you might as well just concede. You're gonna have a really tough time. Unless you don't respect your opponent, in which case I guess just stay in it. Ragnarok is practicing this short game. Absolutely. I mean, look, we just Zest, and before the series, he literally just bet Rogue in a late game, and Rogue probably has the best Zerg versus Protoss late game. And for Zest to be able to beat Rogue, I think Ragnarok, who maybe isn't quite on that same kind of caliber, is definitely right in thinking that maybe you shouldn't do that. Cool, so jumping into game number 4 here, I believe. In the bottom left-hand corner, the blue Protoss, it is Zest. And his opponent in the top right, it is Ragnarok. I hope I haven't lost count. Played Oxide, Death Aura, Lightshade. Yeah, this is our 4th map. Okay. Sometimes I make that mistake. Cool. Pro block once again. Yeah, I mean, Zest is definitely strong in the late game. I think overall Protoss in general in this current balance of the game is favored against Zerg. Overall, I mean, like, Zerg does have a lot of spellcasters, but like the difficulty for Zerg to manage their late game army is so high that even if it was possible, it's inconsistent, because the Protoss army is a lot easier to control. It's more likely to get the max amount of potential out of their army, whereas Zerg, with spellcasters that have no base attack, if they muck up their spells, they could just lose their army without doing anything, and that's very inconsistent. So I think in that way, it's really good for Protoss. Obviously, there's still, like, I'm just talking about head-to-head engagements here. This is obviously not taking into account, you know, counterattacks and base trades, and there are different unit compositions that Zerg can still make. But if you were to kind of say, like, alright, you have 200 population of Zerg units and 200 population of Protoss units, and they're to take one fight, I think more times than not, your average Protoss player would win that fight against your average Zerg player. And ZEST, of course, is no average Protoss player, that's for sure. I think as far as pros go, Ragnarok is... I think you'll be kind of hard-pressed to put him amongst the top Zergs. Definitely a very good Zerg. I'd definitely put him in the top 10. But top 5, I don't know. He'd be competing with, you know, Cyril, Raynor, Rogue, Dark. Who else springs to mind? Yeah, I mean, there's some really, really high caliber Zergs. I don't know if Ragnarok's quite on their level. Yeah, Cyril. Oh, Laser. Oh, I don't know. I think a Laser and Ragnarok are actually pretty similar. In fact, I think I would... I think I would probably put Ragnarok over a Laser. It depends. It depends. Sometimes a Laser's looking really, really good. But I think overall, I favor the Korean Zergs over the European Zergs, unless we're getting to the top of the top, like Cyril and Raynor. Like those European Zergs are amazing. I think their overall, like what you would call like their macro, like their ability to produce units and defend attacks, is overall better than the Korean Zergs. I think they're much better at constantly spending their money and growing their economy. But the Korean aggressive Zergs, I think, are better than the European Zerg ones. Oh, interesting. Okay, ZEST is really, really changing this up every game. By the way, even though it's the same 2 units, it's the same as the Void Ray and the Oracle every single time. Like last game, he separated them. The Oracle went into the third, and the Oracle went into the natural, and the Void Ray went into the third. In this game, he's kind of put them together. In the first game, he played very passively. So I know it looks like the same thing, but ZEST is making all these like subtle differences, which is just giving him these leads the longer the series goes on. And I think that's what ZEST kind of showing us how confident he is. By the way, every map will be played, because it is a best of 7, which is kind of cool because we get 7 games no matter what, but it also means we get every map in the map pool, which is cool. I think this map pool is pretty standard. I don't think there's any map in this map pool that jumps out as being particularly weird. Like maybe Gigantha, because it is just so big, perhaps you could say is a bit weird. And oh, what's the one? Oh god, I can't remember its name actually. There is one that I would consider weird, but that's me personally. I think these players probably wouldn't find it so strange. It's the one where you have like the mineral patch that can be mined out in front of your third base. God, what's it called? If someone in the chat knows, please. It's really bugging me. I'd like to know. Oh, ZEST going for the high health queen here. High energy queen, should I say? So it removes a lot of the healing from these from the anti-air of Ragnarok. Good pullback there by ZEST, pulling back the low health Void Ray, keeping it alive. Of course, the shields will regenerate over time, but the base health won't. So if he can keep them alive, then he's still keeping the same amount of damage output, and the effective health of these units would be fairly consistent if he were to try attack again. Ooh, okay. There are 6 gateways going down. That's going to take us up to 8. And 8 gates with charge is a timing attack, I do believe. It is later in the game. Usually you would have them done by, I think it's like 5 minutes to 6 minutes, somewhere in between there. Go for a timing attack. Oh, 8 gates. Yeah, no, this is definitely... Where are those other 2? Yeah, down here. Oh yeah, ZEST is going for a big charge lot all in. Now, roaches are being made, and baneling speed is on the way. Let's see.
You have a new queen. Show me those skills.
Oh, Ragnarok, your voice back. The diva voice back from Overwatch. But yeah, I think Ragnarok knows. He's making roaches. With that baneling speed, he will have a composition that can fight mass charge lot Archon. Now, ZEST is taking a 4th base, which means either this can be a fake, where he's not actually wanting the 4th base, or he could just abandon the attack. Like, he's made the gateways, but he doesn't necessarily have to use them, unless, like, he's being attacked. Ideally, you'd want to get the 4th base before the gateways in an ideal world, but it's a cool adjustment that ZEST can make. Now, the great thing about these gateways as well is they're really good on the defense. So this is going to be really, really hard for Ragnarok to break. I think Ragnarok might be getting a little bit too predictable with his all-in attacks. Let's see what can happen. No, a big surround. It looks like Ragnarok wants to get on top of the High Templar and deny the storms. There's still one more storm here on this High Templar at the back. It does get thrown down in the middle of all of that Roach Ravager. A lot of damage being dished out to the ground army of Ragnarok. There's a lot of queens back here, so... Ooh, the queens can fight the Void Rays, but more and more charge lots. The charge lots, these zealots here, they are really strong against the queens. The queens have really low damage against ground units. So they have a really tough time against this. Now the queens is the linchpin of Ragnarok's attack here. If they go down, these Void Rays clean up everything. Queens are still alive. There's no energy on them, so they have no more healing available. Let's see. Ragnarok needs more roaches to keep the zealots off of the queens, but you know what? I think he's actually done it. There's really not much here. I mean, there is still 10 gateways, so there's like 10 zealots that can be made every single round, but I think overall, Ragnarok's making more units than ZEST is making. So in terms of production, Ragnarok is winning the production war right now. I think actually, yeah, Ragnarok was more greedy this time. He actually got a 4th base. The other times he's been just doing this off 3 bases. So with the extra base, he's got more economy and more production. Now, oh, looks like ZEST wants to pounce on the queens. Remember, the queens are keeping these Void Rays at bay. Interesting that ZEST hasn't tried to make any more. He's trying to focus on his ground army at the moment. Oh, Bios actually do connect with the Void Ray there. Actually, the Void Rays may not matter, actually. Queens aren't as important now that ZEST isn't committing to Void Rays. Yeah, he's just committing to ground. So now, I think with just Roach Ling, even though these storms are really good for ZEST, I think that Ragnarok just wins a straight-up engagement here. Biles do go down. They are trying to shoot these Archons as they're morphing in. Of course, the morphing in Archons, they can't move. They can be pushed, but they can't move. Wow, okay. 2 bases have gone down here for ZEST. He's lost the majority of his army. He does have 3 Immortals, so that's alright, but it's going up against Hydra Ling now. Immortals are great against Roaches because they're bonus damage versus armored units, but the Hydras are light units, so the Immortals don't do any bonus damage versus them. I honestly think that Ragnarok could probably just go for a Zergling Bane Hydra push here. And I don't think ZEST has enough to deal with it. Like, look how small his army is. It's technical, yes. I mean, in terms of gas, even though it's small, it's actually got a lot of gas. So it's got a lot of potential. but it has no meat to it. Whereas, like, look how big Ragnarok's army is right now. Oh, even, was that a Warp Prism? Yeah, even takes down the Warp Prism. So the harassment options out of ZEST have just been slapped down. And now, that probably gives Ragnarok the go, to just go and attack. Now that there's not going to be any counterattack options here for ZEST, Ragnarok has nothing to fear. And looks like this sneaky 4th base, well, I guess you could say 5th base, has been scouted, so it's like, Ragnarok's unsure. He is splitting his army, but he's doing so, he keeps changing his mind. Baneling's coming into the 3rd base here. Oh my god! 16 probes going down. That, there's just no way that ZEST can keep up the defense against this. Ragnarok going up to 5 bases now. He's got huge production. Look how well he's spending his money too. His money's always low, even with 72 drones. All of this micro, all of this attacking going on. You know. It's definitely why I would consider Ragnarok a top 10 Zerg. Alright, he's spreading out his Zerglings to negate the power of Storm. Storms so far have been good, but the Storms are, there's still one more Storm available. But it may not just matter. The Banelings, the Hydras, bursting through the last remains of this Protoss army. And it might just be GG. Yeah, the Banelings crashing into the Zealots here, bruising all of them. There is a shield battery overcharge, but, oh, sorry. That's not going to be enough. GG will be called. It's a weird bug with the mouse grip. It just like jumps sometimes. Cool. All right. Wow, we're actually 2-2. Definitely not what I was expecting going into this. It's what I think. Like, look, Ragnarok. He's the kind of player who I'm always kind of like, look, don't underestimate Ragnarok. I think a lot of players kind of, maybe myself included, a lot of viewers maybe think that his timing attack aggressive style is like really predictable. Maybe a little bit one note. But it's strong. It works. Now, ZEST might make some adjustments here. He might maybe delay his 3rd base, focus more on units, because and maybe just try to draw it out into the late game, no matter what. But so far, Ragnarok is looking like he can be lethal in that mid game, which is when Zerg is really strong. Alright, ZEST map pick. Oh, it's Romanticide, that's right. Yeah, this is probably what I would consider one of the more non-standard maps in the map pool, but even then it's quite standard. Like, you can very safely take your 3-4 bases. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Just how there's like that little mineral patch between some of your bases is a bit strange in my opinion. Does open up some options for how you want to kind of do your base layout in the mid to late game. So what is this, map 5? Yeah, map 5. Yeah, this might actually go the distance, which is quite cool. Yeah, well, we're gonna do all the maps anyway, but it's cool when the series itself is very close. Spawning on in the top left-hand corner, the blue Protoss, it is ZEST. And his opponent in the bottom right, the red Zerg, it is Ragnarok. Yeah, so this is kind of what I'm talking about here, is usually if you're wanting to take a safe 3rd base, you would take this one here. And you got these mineral patches that have, they were like, what, 5? 10 minerals. So it just takes like two trips with a drone, and then it will be mined out and it opens up this path. Yeah, so right now we're gonna take this base. I think if this probe by ZEST doesn't block this base, I think Ragnarok would take this base and then this base, if he could. But because of the block, he would take this 3rd base safely. until he can, how do I say this? Like, ideally, he would like to take these bases as his one, base 2, base 3. But because he's forced to take his third base first, he doesn't want to put it so aggressively. So he chooses the safe option here instead. I think in general, Ragnarok is the kind of player that would want to take an aggressive forward base, just so he can spread his creep further out, as long as it's not too aggressive. Huh. Okay, this was a slight variation out of Ragnarok here. So far, he's been like, these drones that he's been making, he's been rallying to the gas one by one. So it actually slows down how much gas he gathers in the early game. This game, he actually put all of his drones into the gas sooner. This just means he's going to have slightly more gas in the early game, which could indicate, with the faster Zergling speed, he might keep drones on gas and go for a Roach Warren. He could go for something more aggressive, maybe only on 2 bases here. But no, he pulls them off. I'm reading way too much into this. But there are some all-ins with Zerg where when the gas finishes, you put the 3 workers onto it immediately, and that gives you some options to go for a timing attack. I'm definitely reading too much into this. Alright, Stargate once again. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4. How you doing, man? Yeah, so this time ZEST going back to what he was doing in game 1 and 2 of this series, where he was just using the shade to scout. He's just going to keep everything at home and play more passively. Yeah, I think ZEST is now thinking to himself, man, Ragnarok is being hyper aggressive. If he can just play more defensively, then he'll be fine. Yeah. I like how ZEST is actually sending the shades out in different locations, just to try spot if there is any Zerglings just sitting to the side of his base, to check for if they're making morphing into banelings for a baneling bust. Man, I'm really liking these little like nook and crannies that ZEST is finding for himself, because only like 1 or 2 Zerglings can attack this adept at a time. So by putting in that location, it means it can fight a lot more Zerglings than if it were out in the open, where it would just be surrounded by, you know, 6 Zerglings. I don't think you get, is it 8 you can get up to? Attacking from all angles? It might be 6. But anyhow, this location means it can only be attacked by maybe 2 or 3. Oracle comes in here, does find itself 1 kill, but it looks like it might actually go down. It's trapped. It would have to recall to get out. And does go down. Good pick off there by Ragnarok. 1 drone is not worth an Oracle. As you can see, it's worth 150 minerals and 150 gas. Drone's worth 50 minerals and the Overlord's worth 100, so... If we're just looking at this objectively, that's quite good here for Ragnarok. Bit of miscontrol, you could probably say, from ZEST. Okay. Yep, ZEST once again, second Stargate, Forge, and Twilight Council, so he's going to play Super Stand. In fact, I think he's going to play very defensively here. I think that Zergling did scout the 3rd base here for ZEST. And much faster 4th base, by the way, for Ragnarok. I think he will go for that 4 base Roachling Queen push. Yeah, there's the Baneling Nest, there's the lair. Yeah, I think he is going to do it. That seems really effective in game 4. Oh, he's going to get it! I mean, hey, look, it's 75 minerals to lose an extractor. So... it's not the worst thing. Delays the the gas can come here for Ragnarok. And you have to consider, like, a lot of these, the way that they're building their orders and they're building their structures and is all in an important order. Like, these players have this mapped out down to within like 2 to 3 seconds of it. There's a lot of like scouting here from both players. All right, so we're gonna go 10 gateways again for ZEST, but I don't know if he's gonna get his 4th base this time. Because I think that's what lost him that last game, was that he went up to 10 gateways and then he took his 4th. He's gonna do it again, okay. Now, to be fair, Ragnarok is doing something different. He's not going for the Roach Queenling push. He's going for a Hydralisk, which Storm Charge Lot, it actually does a lot better against than the Roaches. Now, this map is pretty small, so I mean, it's likely we're going to see the same push out of Ragnarok. ZEST looks like he just wants to play defensively. He's got a game plan into minute 20, and he's going to play it out to that every game if he can. Whereas Ragnarok is like, nah, dog. Minute 10, that's what I'm all about. I think kind of StarCraft is really cool in a way where when you consider like how time dependent a lot of the game is, when it's like how many workers you should have by a certain amount of time. For example, 80 workers by 7 minutes 30. That's just something you learn. That's just like, that's a good benchmark to be a Zerg. Because if you have 80 drones by that time, you're gonna you're gonna have the economy you need to build your mid to late game units. Like if you're looking at a replay and you don't have that many workers by that time, you know you've either it's been a wacky replay or you haven't quite macroed properly. And in the same way that certain attacks are really strong at certain stages of the game, depending on when your opponent attacks, or what they have to defend at that particular time. Alright, there's a lot of storm potential here. So far, not the best storms. Oh, there's a big storm. Yep. Finding a lot of these banelings here. But there's no more High Templar back here. So it looks like these banelings will crash on forward. They're not really finding any juicy targets, but they have a lot of burst damage. So they will break through these units. Reinforcement Zealots here. They've got a lot of HP. So they will cut through the Hydras of Ragnarok. And a full surround by the Zealots encircling the Zerg units here. Oh, good cleanup there by ZEST. I think he's feeling really strong right now. Yeah, Ragnarok needed to deal a lot more damage there. Like, this is not an army composition that you just want to simply trade against your opponent's army composition. It's one that it's like, you need to trade and deal damage to their economy or their, like, destroy a nexus or something like that. You want to destroy a base with this army. But to simply just get in here and not do anything, that's trouble. Now, I like this as ZEST. He's adding in tons of defense. And he's also got a lot of vision here to his right flank. He doesn't have as much defense here, but with all the vision, he knows that he doesn't need it just yet. It's going to take a lot longer for Ragnarok to swing around to the right flank than it is to try to bust through the middle. So it's very kind of smart the way that ZEST is like building his structures on this map. Now, ZEST, I think, knows that he's in a really good position right now, because he knows that Ragnarok committed like a lot of units to an attack that didn't really do any damage. And ZEST's army, it scales later into the game more than Ragnarok's army does. In fact, Ragnarok's army doesn't really scale at all. These units are redundant, kind of within the next kind of minute or two. Now, let's see if he can capitalize on that advantage now. He's going to come in with a lot of banelings. The storm's not quite landing, only on the south side, but a lot of banelings coming in from the north side. But it's It's only Immortal Archon. The Balins want to find Zealots, but the Zealots kind of went to the south here. They were away from all of this Hydraling Bane, and this attack went very poorly here for Ragnarok. Oh no. GG will be called, and ZEST will take the game number 5. Yeah, not quite working out there for Ragnarok. But I mean, look, I think if I were Ragnarok's coach and I were to kind of sit down and be like, all right, these are the strategies you want to do against ZEST on these maps. He's playing the way I think he should. All right, let's see what Ragnarok wants for map 6. There's only 2 options, isn't there? There's Giganther and Submarine. So you have either the biggest map or the smallest map in the map pool. I think he's going to pick the smallest. I don't think he wants... Oh boy, actually, to be fair, he does need to play both. Oh, he's going to pick the biggest. I think we might actually see something different out of Ragnarok. The Nidus Worm is still good, because the tunnel does negate the large kind of distances on the map. If you have an army that takes so long to get across a big map, then it's less effective in attack than, say, like getting a tunnel that just cuts that movement distance out of the attack. You could also go for Mutas. Mutas are pretty good. They're very fast. They would utilize the map a lot more effectively. Alright. What are we? 3-2 in ZEST favor. Yep. Alright, spawning into map number 6. Spawning in the top left-hand corner, the blue Protoss. It is, of course, ZEST. And his opponent in the bottom left, the red Zerg, it is Ragnarok. Oh, hey man, welcome to the chat. I'm from New Zealand. Looks like ZEST blocking the... It's so funny, it's the biggest map in the map pool, but he's still... ZEST still gets the early probe to deny the natural expansion. Yeah, I'm from New Zealand. I'm from Wellington, so... It's kind of funny because like New Zealand isn't on a lot of maps, sorry, a lot of like world maps. So I'm kind of from nowhere. I'm in Wellington, I'm in the middle of New Zealand, I'm in the middle of nowhere. New Zealand is a beautiful country. Oh, it absolutely is. It's kind of strange because a lot of New Zealanders, at least a lot of my friends around my age, like a lot of them kind of want to travel and want to go overseas, either to Southeast, like China or Southeast Asia, Japan, or to Europe. But it's so funny because like a lot of us forget that like New Zealand's beautiful and that we can travel here. And it's like a desired location for most travelers. It's just kind of ironic. You don't know how good it is when it's the grass is always greener on the other side. Cool, Stargate once again. Now it's a bigger map pool. I wonder if ZEST will go for like oracles rather than void rays because they move faster. I feel like the void ray won't really get too much done on such a big map. Like movement speed is definitely something you want to take into account when you're playing on the biggest map pool. The biggest map in the map pool, should I say. Yeah, I'm really not sure. Like, I mean, I guess both of these players could play the same way that they've been playing so far. But it definitely takes a bit of the wind out of the sails of either player's aggression. Yeah, it will be an Oracle here for Zest. He won't make a Void Ray. I think that makes a lot of sense. Ooh, Zerglings. Ah, cool. Alright, both of these players are playing differently. So the Oracle here is faster. It's going to get across the map. He can deal some pressure and scout. Ragnarok's going for a lot of Zerglings. This is to try to deny a third base, by the way. So see how these Adepts are moving here to the third base and the probe's about to hit here? These Zerglings are designed to go and cancel that. Now, this Oracle did see some Zerglings leave the base. He didn't see how many it was. So let's see, Zest may delay the Nexus. The Adepts do actually get taken out here. And so yeah, now he knows not to make the Nexus. But even not making it does slow Zest down, because he was saving minerals expressly for this. Rather than maybe like, you know, building a faster gateways or faster Twilight Council, or faster Stargate. Like he expressly wants to take a third base. And these Zerglings out of Ragnarok is denying that quite effectively here. Now, it's not without a cost. Ragnarok, normally at this time of the game, 4 minutes 30, you would be sitting around 50-55 drones. So he's kind of down 10 drones. But Zest just now trying to retake his third base and leaving his oracles at home at the 4-minute 40 mark, when it should be done and mining by this point. So Zest is kind of put back an entire minute, whereas I would say in terms of game time, Ragnarok is put back 30 seconds. So maybe 30-45. So this is good. This is good for Ragnarok, I would say. And tempo wise, Roach Warren going down, Lair going down. I think we are going to be seeing a Roach Queen Nidus strategy out of Ragnarok. Twilight Council, Forge, Robotic Spare here for Zest. So he's going to just... He's got 4 oracles. I think he made the 4th one out of panic. Usually you only make 3. So let's see how many drones he can get. Oh, he's going to go for the Queens. Wait, Queen's going to trade out. They get 1 oracle for 2 queens. This is so far good for Zest. But the oracles will kind of lose their importance the longer the game goes on. You can kind of use them for like revelations like that to scout. But they are expensive. Whoa, Zest is floating a lot of minerals. Is he going to make a lot of gateways or something? I think he was focusing a lot on his micro. This is a big like uncharacteristic mistake out of Zest. Even though I wouldn't really consider Zest like expressly like a macro Protoss per se, for him to be kind of so slow or to float so much money, you kind of think that these Korean players would, that's not a mistake that they would make. So I think Zest might be a little bit tilted. To be fair, he did actually do a best of 5 versus Rogue, should I say, before this series. So he might actually just start to feel a little bit fatigued. Now, 9 drones have gone down, so that is good economic damage for Ragnarok, who was already putting his economy behind by making the early Zerglings rather than drones. There we go, 10 gateways. Ragnarok going up to his 4 bases. Oh, cool! Oh, this is exciting. Swarm hosts. Oh, we have not seen swarm hosts in a professional game, at least that I've casted, in a long time. God, not since I've gone back into casting, I haven't seen swarm hosts. Exciting. Okay, cool, very cool. For those of you who don't know what this unit is here, it's a swarm host. Basically, it has an ability where it can create 2 free units that can fly and then swoop down to attack ground units. And it's every, is it 90 seconds, I want to say? A minute and a half around about, that cooldown between when it can spawn the next wave of free units. So essentially, you're using these free units to whittle down your opponent. They're not good in a straight up fight, but they can slowly whittle down your opponent's defenses. Now, ZEST is got a unit comp that does kind of punish this. So the disadvantage of the Swarm Host is that it is so slow. It is immobile, and it's defenseless once it's sent out its free units. And ZEST is playing a unit composition that's trying to hit from multiple angles, which is what the Swarm Host really struggles with. Now, RAGNAROK, of course, is complementing his army with a lot of Zerglings and a lot of Roaches. So he does have a squad of units to repel harassment, or go on the counter aggression. I don't think Rogue knows about these units here to the left, but he should be able to win this fight actually. There's quite a lot of Roaches. But maybe the oracles and the splash damage is too much. But here we go. This army has now sprung into gear, and there's nothing in to defend it. There's also this army here into the third base. This is going to be a lot of economic damage coming into RAGNAROK right now. He's going to try to save his third base. His fourth base is just going to be sacked. Now, this Locust, they have been sent out here. They're going to focus on the third base of ZEST. So both players are kind of gutting each other's economy. I think overall this is much better here for ZEST, because a lot of these units here, it's a lot of population of ZEST that can't attack right now. So actually there's only these Roaches in the back that can defend RAGNAROK's base. So actually I think, oh no, this Nidus is going to go down. I think ZEST has done it, even though the populations is 126 to 122. GG would be called. ZEST doing a ton of damage, completely punishing the Swarm Host style. Now, oops, sorry. Now, of course, that does now mean that ZEST technically has won the series, but just for fun, we will play out all the games. So the last map will be Submarine, and this is just for, why not? We got the players here. We can play one more. ZEST was like, excuse me, why are we playing one more? I don't think he realized all maps were being played. Cool, cool, cool. It's a show match, of course, so... I mean, I think... I'm surprised RAGNAROK did not pick Submarine, being the smallest map in the map pool. You'd think for his mid-game timings that he's been doing, that it would be really strong. But maybe ZEST has got some even scarier timings on this map. So we'll have to see. Alright. Jumping into our last game here. Spawning on in the bottom right, the blue Protoss, it is ZEST. And his opponent in the top left, the red Zerg, it is RAGNAROK. I wonder if these players are going to get a bit cheesy here. I would love to see like something wild like a cannon rush. Or maybe, I don't know. I would like to see a 2-base all-in. I would like to see something just completely wacky. Nah, we'll be just a gateway first here. I mean, I think like ZEST, he was playing the Mass Adept style for quite a long time. So I wouldn't be surprised if he were to use that strategy here. It would be very effective on a small map like this. Or, I mean, the Void Rays are really strong. They're really good aggressive on the offense and the defense. Honestly, he might just be playing the exact same style. He's clearly found a build order that works for him. And it's all about practice. It's all about the more he gets to do it, the stronger and more refined it becomes. The more he, like, he can see the different responses that his opponents can make, and then he can kind of make a tree of decisions that he can make against these responses. So the more he plays, the more he can kind of develop it. And it becomes stronger, it becomes more consistent as it learns to deal with more and more defending more things that his opponent could throw at him. Because I think that's what it is ultimately. I think you are trying to create like a decision tree. If my opponent does X, I do Y. If my opponent does Y, I do Z, so on and so forth. And if you're playing the same way every single time, it makes that decision tree, it grows the same decision tree. Because if you're trying to do a different strategy every time, then it's a different decision tree. If you're going for an all-in versus like a greedy economic game, the decision trees are completely different. So the responses you would have in one scenario is not the same response that you would have on a low economy scenario. Oh, yeah. Okay. Twilight Council Robo. Alright. Glaive time. Let's go. Yeah, it's exactly what I was hoping to see. As I was saying, I mean, ZEST was using this a lot in, let's say, what was it? The last quarter of 2019, I want to say. Actually, no, he was using it in 2020, like halfway through 2020. He was just doing this every single game. And it was quite effective. Now, there's Overlord here out of Ragnarok. He will scout it, he does know it's on the way. And Ragnarok does have a decent defense against it. Yeah, he knows exactly what's on his way. So, Ragnarok knows the worker count, he knows where to position his units, how many roaches to make, how many zerglings to make. And it's all going to come down to execution. It's all going to come down to who can control their units better than their opponent. Oh, this Overlord might actually escape. It's going to try go to the high ground vision. So that's going to keep the Warp Prism back at home for just a bit longer than it would like. Yeah, because that Overlord... yeah, this Warp Prism could have already been on the other side of the map, but it's forced to stay at home to pick up that Overlord. Now, Zerglings are preparing for a counterattack here. There's only one Stalker in the wall. There's only one pylon, actually. So if they break through this, this is really scary here for a ZEST. This is I like this response. Ragnarok knew what was coming, and he knew that when his opponent moves out the map, there's not much to defend. Now, being a small map, the Adepts with their Shade ability, they're going to be able to get across very quickly, and they can come home very quickly. So I think overall this type of unit is very strong for ZEST, and it does make it difficult here for Ragnarok to be at the right place at the right time. Now, these Ravagers, by the way, they do have more range and movement speed than the Adepts, so they can, like, micro against them. Oh, big wraparound here by Ragnarok. Yeah, big Biles as well. He's going to clean this up. GG. Oh, well played there by Ragnarok.